Happy Wednesday. Patrick here from 8 Questions with Cheetah Will Travel. And yep, once again, I'm running a little late. Uh, welcome. Welcome to the show. So far, we are having already an outstanding week. We had a great interview yesterday with Joe Leone, which I highly recommend everybody check out. And tonight, we're talking with the lovely Tasha Tacosa, and she'll be here in about 10 to 15 minutes. And I can't wait to talk to her. She has such a fun group of credits. Just every movie that she's been in, it looks like just something that I really want on my shelf. I really want the movies that she's been in. Actually, I do have one of her movies, or her very first work. Actually, she worked on The Magnificent Seven, and I do have that on my shelf. But some of the other movies that she has include, and these are movies that are upcoming, and that includes let's see, that includes Clown Motel Massacre. Yeah, you got me there. Hey, Echo. Of course, she has Amityville Shark House coming up. She has American Bigfoot coming up. I mean, Dracula in a women's prison. Frankenstein in a woman's prison. so, so you already know these are movies that we all love and talk about, or we should be talking about, or we should be scoring for sure. But she's been in the movies, and we'll talk to her about her career and how she landed in some very fun sounding movies. I know that Amber Road that she just wrapped. I know that a guest of ours, our good friend Mike Ferguson, he's in that movie. So he'll be talking. We'll be talking to her about that movie. And though she didn't have any scenes with Mike, but we still could talk to her about the film, of course. All right. Hi, Casey. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. That helps the channel too. That helps. Uh, that might get Hops to come in and throwing some pumpkins down. So yesterday I mentioned that the good news is the IFC Midnight Nights are coming back, and we are. Uh, we will be back on Sunday, April 10th at 7:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 Pacific, and we will be on Ben Cadaver's Club's channel. He is hosting the show. We have a special guest making her first live stream appearance. It will be Mary Wilson. She is our guest night for the show. And we will be talking about none other than Relic. So this is the movie that we'll be talking about Sunday. So yeah, I can't wait to get into that. In fact, I'll probably be watching that movie tonight as soon as I get done with the show here. And also, the voting has ended for Dollar Tree Theater, and you guys have indeed picked Redwood Massacre Annihilation as the movie me and the Cheetah are covering for Dollar Tree. This is an upset, actually. I really thought everybody would be jumping on the Predator bandwagon, get to the chopper. But I think everybody wants to see Danielle Harris instead. So we will definitely be looking at Danielle Harris and Redwood Massacre Annihilation. And of course, Sunday's coming around, and we will be back on my channel next Sunday for the Midnight Society, and we'll be talking about Friday the 13th, the New Blood. So that's what's been going on. It's been a very busy day since last night, and so lo and behold, hope everybody's doing well. It was a doom and gloom day here in southeastern Michigan until it got to about now. Now it's decided to become mostly sunny. Well, there you go, right? um, I don't know what it's like everywhere else. I talked to Waffles earlier, and he said that New Jersey was being pounded with rain too. So uh, I'll go over the calendar for replay purposes. So as we know, we're talking to Tasha in about 10 minutes or so. Tomorrow night, we will be talking to Franklin Correa. He is a filmmaker based back east. I do believe he is New York. If he's not mistaken, he might be New York too. Yeah, New York. And of course, we have the two shows I mentioned to you before on Sundays. Hi, Betty. How are you? Glad you're here for this interview. This is going to be a fun one. This will be a lot of fun. So on the 10th of April, we will be covering two shows. We will be covering Relic on Ben's channel, and then bounce back here at 9 o'clock for the Midnight Society, Friday the 13th, The New Blood. And then next Monday, the 11th, we have actress photographer Holly Lynch will be here with us. On the 12th, we have Caleb Baker. On the 13th, we have Jenny Aguilar Mickelson. And on the 14th, we have Tim Hatch. Hey, CV, how are you? Glad you're here, sir. Glad you are here. All right, we're ready for fun. Today's going to be absolutely fun. And then on April 17th, we are back on Al's channel for Friday the 13th, part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. So he gets that one. Thank you so much, CV. I appreciate that. I hope you guys have a lot of fun. I really like bringing these folks to you. They're very hardworking and they're entertaining, and I love talking to them. They're a lot of fun. We had a great interview with Joe Leone yesterday. Highly recommend that. And of course, last Friday we talked to Bill Obrist Jr. Wow, that was a great interview. Really love that interview. And in fact, I will be leaving a voice message on one of his podcasts. He has a podcast show, and he pinged me and asked me to leave a voice message. So I'm going to do that. So on the 18th, we had to reschedule Jennifer Nagel. She'll be here on the 18th. Malvoya, the hostess with the mostest, will be here. On the 19th of April, we have the lovely Max Wassa will be here. Yes, Max. It's a girl. Wassa will be here at 8 p.m. On the 20th, we have musician Ronnie Cole will be with us on the 20th. On the 21st, we have Christopher Moore will be making a return appearance, along with the lovely Meredith Moeller. They'll be coming in together. We'll be interviewing them both about Children of Sin. Let's see. And then on the 25th, we have Chris Koranger will be here. Lowranger will be here at 8 p.m. 26th, Josh DeForest will be here with us. The 27th to see Angel Bradford, actress Angel Bradford with us on the 27th. And then on the 28th, we have Rachel A. Bryant. So a lot of new faces coming through 8 Questions With. Oh, thank you so much, CV. That'd be awesome, man. I really do appreciate the support. And everybody put your hands together and welcome our guest. Here she is. Here is the lovely Tasha. Now, I'm going to let her pronounce her last name since I'm afraid I've been killing it.
It's Tacosa.
Tacosa. Okay, so I haven't been mangling it that bad. I think I've got it right for the most part.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you don't want to do. You don't really want to crush anybody's names. Like, that's really bad form. How are you today?
I'm good.
I absolutely love your body of work so far.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
It is so much fun sounding. I just said before you got here, I said, those are the type of movies that you're in, as that I want them on my shelf. You know, those are, yeah. You want to sit there and have all those because They look absolutely entertaining as hell.
They
Uh,
were entertaining to do too.
uh, hey Timothy, can you see their chat from where you're at? Can you see the chat room where you're at, Tasha?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
No. Do I need
Okay.
to do something?
If you have a monitor, or if you have a monitor or an extra or a browser, you can open up to the chat and see it. Otherwise, I'll read it to us as we go on.
I can attempt to, but you should probably read it to me.
Okay. All right. Definitely will. Hi, Timothy. I'm doing well. Doing well. Our friend Betty is giving you a standing ovation, applause. My right hand man, Mr. Bones, is in the house. Thank you, Mr. Bones. Those who can share, please do. I appreciate that so much. I said that about your work. I said, it needs to be on it needs to be on our shelves. I actually do have your very first job.
You do.
Uh, I do. I have the whole series.
Wait, which
You appeared in 1998 on the Magnificent Seven TV show.
Oh my god. Why do you know that?
Well, there's two reasons why I know that. One, well, actually three. One, because I looked it up on your database. Two, because I own the series. And three, because we actually did talk to Michael Being.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So because I loved the Magnificent Seven TV show. That's my
Mhm.
seven. That's my seven. I like that show better than the movies.
It was really fun to work on, for sure.
Yeah. He talked about that. He said of everything he's ever done, the most disappointed he was not seeing it go was the seven.
Yeah.
So, because I love that show. I thought it was great. And then I did see my buddy. He still might have it, but I actually saw your second one, your first one that you were featured in a movie called Out Cold. I actually watched that. I saw that. I saw that.
You're
Yep.
like digging it up. Oh my gosh.
No,
Yeah.
no, I promise you, Tasha. I saw that movie. Me and my buddy Catfish. We went over. We went over to his house, and he says, "I got to show you this movie." And he brought it out. It was Out Cold. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun movie. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was my first independent. Yeah. Wow. I can't believe you know that.
yeah, I was like, okay, I don't have a copy of he did, but he's like, oh wow, okay, this is fun, because it was just it's just one of those low budget action movies. You just sit there and go like, this is cool, because nobody really sees those type of movies, not enough people, especially
I know.
now, especially now with all the streaming going on. It's like, wait a minute, how come, or it's like we need to bring these movies back because we want to see them, uh, they
Yeah, that's
shouldn't
been
just
a million years ago.
they just shouldn't just disappear. They need to be brought up and talked about and celebrated. Hello, Roy and Becky. How are you? Howdy, howdy. Glad you're here. Glad you are here. We were talking to the lovely actress Tasha Tacosa today, and yeah, we're talking about her early days. And like I said, see, I told you I wasn't lying to you. These are type of projects, these are type of movies that we collective, most of the people in the chat, we want on our shelves. We go looking for these movies.
I love that. That's amazing.
Um, so before we get to some of those fun movies, and believe me, we will, especially Shark House Amityville.
I just shot that.
How much fun was that?
It's, you know what? It was so crazy too because I have not spoken to Sean in years. And one night he called me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to do this movie?" And I was like, "Sure." Sure.
Is that Sean Phillips?
Yeah, Sean C. Phillips.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's making a run he's making a run as a director, isn't he?
He didn't actually direct that one. I believe he produced it and he was the lead of it. But yes, I think he's trying to go all the way.
Let's see who directed this movie. That would be Will Coloso. Oh, I have Will. I know who Will is. and
Yeah.
Sean Smith, I guess they co-directed it. Wow. But how much fun is that? I mean, Shark House Amityville. I mean,
It was actually really fun.
oh, no, no, I totally agree. Before we get into the depths of emotion, of your character or whatnot, because good Lord, you need to have a strong character in a movie like that.
Oh
Let's go.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I think movies like that, to tell you the truth and tell me if I'm wrong or not, I think sometimes those movies are more of a challenge to an actor or actress than the heavy role.
I do in this case, yes, because I came in at the very last minute, and you're on the spot, and they're kind of like, "Well, this is the scene," and you're dealing with the script that they wrote, the time frame that they have. Luckily, we had really good locations, or at least my scenes were. And then if something doesn't work, they're like, "Okay, let's just change it to this." So you're making up things in the middle, but then trying to figure it out. And I wasn't the first cast, so the way that I came at it was completely different. But it was super fun, and we just had a fun time on set. It was a lot of screaming, a lot of blood, a lot of I don't know how I had met Sean in the past. I had never seen him in this light, so I was like, "Wow, okay, let's do this." Like, it was an adventure.
Yeah, Sean's been kicking around for a very long time. I think a lot of people would be surprised to see how long he's been kicking around. I mean, he was a child actor when he was younger.
Yes, and we're in a movie. We're in a special effects movie called Giantess Attack, and I'm actually holding him in my hand, but I never actually met him during that film. But he's digitized in my hand and does a whole scene with me. And I was like, oh, okay. So there's a lot of promo pictures with him in my hand, but I hadn't met him until after that, a distinct amount of time after.
Is that how it works sometimes though? When you work in Indian films, it's really just about networking, isn't it? I mean, you didn't have to
It,
go and do a formal audition or anything. He just called you and say, "Hey, would you like to come down and hang out and do a scene or two?"
well, we have actually we have filmmakers in common that we work with, and I think in that situation, he did have an issue, and he knew me, and he knew my work. So then and I was available. And I get it. I'm in a lot of independent films, and I produce a lot of films, so I'm kind of like it happens. All right, I'll be there. Send me the script.
Our good friends Timothy and our good friend CV are saying welcome, 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 Tasha. Yep. So they're saying hello. Uh, yeah, I like I said, I think that sometimes I would, I look at those movies and it's like, you really don't think about it too much. The average fan doesn't really think about it too much. But I mean, if you look at it, you start thinking, you got really no time to prepare. I mean, even in the best of circumstances, it's not like there's it's not like a studio project. It takes time to get things going or whatnot. A lot of times it's like, okay, we got our budget, we raised it or whatnot, and then you go ahead and you quickly shoot it out as soon as you can. I mean, what was the shooting date? How long did it take for you to shoot Shark House Amityville?
I was on Shark House for 3 days, but I think their shoot was 10 days.
And so that's a pretty fast shoot, though, wouldn't you say?
Well, that's a pretty normal shoot, though.
It-
Most of those films are shot between, I'd say, 10 and 14 days.
we had talked to writer director Joe Leone yesterday, and he shot his feature Reap. He shot it in 4 days,
I totally believe it.
80,
He's not the
80,
only one out there that's done that.
80 pages, 4 days.
It happens. It does happen.
I have nothing but respect to anybody who could do that. I mean, that kind of work, that kind of workload. I mean, holy crow. But before we get, like I said, before we get into a real, before we chop into that a little bit more, I guess we need to learn a little bit about Tasha. And the only question I have for you, like preset, is where were you born and raised at?
I was born back east. I'm sorry, I was actually born in California, but I grew up back east. I grew up in Virginia, so I
Okay.
was in Williamsburg, Richmond.
What was it like growing up there?
Southern. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Uh, yeah. You don't have a southern accent.
My parents are from California, so and I've been told I have more of a New York accent, which I don't know, but yeah, my parents weren't from the South, but the y'alls come out every now and then.
Okay. Okay. How long did you live in Virginia for?
Off and on until I was 19. We moved out of state a lot, and then I came to LA.
Okay. Okay. Now, not as growing up in high school, junior high school, or whatnot, did when did you get the idea that this is something you wanted to do, or was this something that came to you late?
Oh, I was always I saw Annie when I was 5, and I was like, "What is a play?" And I need to be a part of it. So I actually was a classically trained actress, and I like performed like summer stock and all of that, Shakespeare and everything. Because in Virginia, that's a very big area for classical theater. So I was performing since I was like professionally since I was 8 in the theater, and then I just kept moving on and trying to find bigger jobs. And when I like could read better, I was like, I need to get a job. So about I think by the time I was doing classical theater, and then by the time, and this is a funny story, but I did classical theater, and part of the summer stock was that they gave college credits to the people in the guild. And me being 8 was like, okay, that means me. So I took business classes when I was 8 years old.
Oh my
Um, Yeah, and I went home and I was like, I need a typewriter. I need to make a resume. I'm ready to go to New York and wait tables because that's what my environment was all these adults. So then I just kept trying to look for jobs, and I looked for every job I could growing up. I did do some like children's television shows for the people who produced Sesame Street, and anything that Virginia had to offer, I was there and I started doing.
So you built up a resume really fast.
Mm.
You built up a
Well, I
resume
tried.
pretty fast.
A Virginia resume. I mean, it's not quite the same. But yeah, I mean, for living in Virginia, for sure. Yeah.
How are your parents? I mean, were they 100% supportive to you right off the bat, or did they give you like a little test area to see how well you would do?
I think they were confused, but if you met me as a child, I was so business minded that I was like, look, I'm moving. Granted, I was, 8. But yeah, so they just kind of let me do it. My mom was very impressed. She's a doctor of political science. She was just impressed that I took the initiative. And my dad was like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like, he just was confused. So they just kind of let me do my thing. I'm the only one who's really artistic in my family. So they were like, okay, well, I guess if she's finding these auditions and she's booking these jobs, okay. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, most parents, they give that their child, because children change their mind, in every 15 minutes, but a lot of parents will go ahead and give that child, like, okay, here's what you can do. If you're really serious, we'll see how well you do within a certain amount of time. That way you don't like most child will, okay, I want to be an actor today, then tomorrow night they want to be an astronaut, and the next night they want to be president, that sort of thing. So parents always take that conservative approach because acting classes take a lot of money, and that's a commitment, and they want to make sure the child is sincerely committed. And then I find out most parents are very committed after that.
yeah,
Did your mom did your
kind of
mom
let
go
me.
through it? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying they just kind of let me do it. They were just like,
Did they drive to you? Did they drive you to the various auditions and whatnot?
my mom drove me to a few, but I would find everything. I was either in the newspaper. One day when I would say I had to have been 14, I had a job, and I came home and I found out about getting an agent. And so on my own, I ended up getting an agent in Virginia Beach. And I was like, he called to send me in for an audition for a TV show. And he was like, I'm sending your daughter in. She was like, did you get an agent? And I was like, oh, yeah, by the way. Yeah, I did. And I
Well,
booked the show.
didn't I tell you that, Mom?
Yeah, it was like, it was so instantaneous, perfect timing. Sometimes you are in perfect timing. I went in and met with him randomly. He was like, do you want to audition for the show? I was like, yes, I do. I'm going to book that show. So
Uh, Timothy says this. I have to agree with this. He says, "Sounds like you were born to act and be a producer. Amazing work ethic." Yeah, that's definitely the case. You're very hardworking, very dedicated. I mean, 14 years old and already doing that all on your own without any guidance. I mean, I haven't heard very many people doing that at that age.
I
What
was dedicated.
have you always had that, Tasha? Have you always been that focused?
Um, yeah, when getting, I guess it sounds bad, but when getting what I want. Um, yeah, because I knew I wanted to do it. I wanted to perform. And I lived in an area that wasn't really conducive to being like Hollywood. So I figured in my head, I was like, I got to figure it out. And I have to figure out the best way to make this happen. Sure, I was limited on my resources and abilities. Couldn't drive, I lived at home, I was a kid. But yeah, I wanted it. And even though my family doesn't really understand art and entertainment so much, they do understand, like, you set a goal, you have a plan to get to that goal, and you just do it. So I had no one saying it was impossible for me to go find these jobs. So they just didn't know how I was doing it, but they were like, okay. So I do have that mentality. Like, if I want something, I just go for it and I try to figure it out. And I realize that there's no one way to get where you're going. So I'm just going to try whatever works. And yes, I was always like that.
Do you have like a what I call like a challenge board or anything like that, where you put it on the wall with your goals that you want to meet, and then you just go off that? Like,
I I've made them at times, and then they've disappeared with me moving or going places. I do make them though, like vision boards. I do make them sometimes, and all of my vision boards, in retrospect, as much as I can remember them, they kind of they kind of reflect my career because it's kind of a road that most people don't usually take. But ironically, if my vision boards of the past kind of in a way reflect it. So it's kind of like, be careful what you ask for because you just may get it.
I want to be a big star, and so, you are, and that's something we've talked about before. It's like a lot of performers sit there and say that, I want to be like this big, and then once they get there, and sometimes they're not ready for that. I mean, sometimes they're just not prepared. They think that's what they want, and and then when they do get it, and next thing everybody's tugging at your cape because everybody wants you, wants your time, wants your voice, your look. Then it can be so overwhelming. But I don't see that being a problem for you.
I tried not to let it be a problem. Like, I'd love to be a superhero and be like, oh, it doesn't become a problem. But honestly, I think anything that you really go after, you're gonna come up against adversity. So I try not to see it as a problem. There's some days that I need to talk myself down, but for the most part, yes. I just
Um, what was it like? What were you like when you first started out when you were 13 or 14? What were you like at audition?
outspoken.
Yeah, yeah.
If you
I
can
was looking
believe
for
that.
that.
I mean, I'm very shy. um, I I went. I had such a pure point of view when I went to auditions, and I was so into like acting and the actual craft of it that I just did it without having a second thought. And I was very, because I had taken all these business classes as an 8-year-old, I auditioned like the adults I saw auditioning because I was emulating them. Because to me, I was like, oh, they're really doing this in adult life. So I have to act like that. And so I was a little bit, I don't want to say overzealous, but maybe a little bit over professional. But It's not a bad thing because it's hard to hire kids, and people are like, "Oh God, we have to hire kids." So you know, we need people who know how to do the work. But
Right. It's it's hard to get a polished child actor though. It's
yeah,
hard. I mean, especially without you going through all the different acting academies and all those prep schools or whatnot. I mean, for you to do this in Virginia and have that focus, I mean, you must appear to do. I mean, people are auditioning you. You must have been like a breath of fresh air, like holy crow, because I'm positive they didn't see people like you walking through the doors every day. Look at your resume. 8 years old, you're already taking business courses. I mean, who does that? Who has that focus like that? You know what? So, but so you didn't? Did you act in high school too, or did you just bypass that and stick to the summer stock and and theater?
I did actually. I went to a school of the performing arts,
Okay.
which yes, and it was new in my town when I got to high school level. So, but it was on the other district, so I lobbied so I could go to it. And yeah, so I went to a school of performing arts, and then I shot two children's shows while I was in high school, and then I was a public speaker for like positive living, believe it or not.
No, no, I don't. No, I believe it.
I was like TED Talk for kids.
Oh, oh well. You know what? I think that's very charming. I think that's How did it go for you? How did you like it?
I did. At that age, it's mostly competitions to do sort of things like that. But yeah, I did really well, and I I don't know if it was because it was the assignment or just because I did have that goal mentality, and I always believed in dreams and going for your dreams. So it was really natural for me to go in front of a bunch of people and talk about it and talk about putting your goals out there. It makes me laugh now because I had lived no life, but I was definitely telling everybody how to go for it and make your dreams happen.
Well, that's because your dream you wanted to be a successful actor.
Yeah.
So, so you weren't lying when you were up there. I mean, you weren't misleading anybody. You were just sitting there going, "This is what if you want," and you were actually making your dreams happen. So that was when you're standing there, you were basically telling your truth. Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
True.
I mean, you were. It wasn't like you were pretending to be something you weren't. You weren't. You were being true to yourself. I mean, I don't want to use the word precocious because I don't really think that's the right word to use here. I think the
Mm.
word focused and dedicated are definitely the two words to use. And I'm just admiring your parents. I'm sitting over here just thinking about how your parents, they must have been so proud of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they didn't know how to take it, but they definitely, yeah, they were like, wow, this kid is like, she's out there doing it. So they enjoyed it. They think it's, to this day, they're like, well, we at least know she can take care of herself. So
Right. So how long did you stay in Virginia? Now, you said you were classically trained. So where did you go to college at after high school?
I went to Virginia Commonwealth University. And then prior to that, I was on, when you do the summer stock and everything, that's classical training too. You're classically trained there. And then my school of performing arts, their whole curriculum was classical to modern.
What did you like better, classic or modern?
I mean, everybody likes modern better, but I mean, of course, I have a great love for Shakespeare and the writing of Shakespeare, and I enjoy it for what it is. So I enjoy performing on stage classical because it's costumes and it's all this like innuendo storytelling, and it's fun. And it's fun because you have time to kind of really create within that story, where modern and also film and television has less of a process and less, at times, I'm not saying everything, but at times may have less of an in-depthness to it.
Uh, now, after how long did you stay in Virginia after you got your degree? Did you stay there for a certain time? And did you go to New York first or Los Angeles?
Well, the goal was actually to go to New York, And then my friend had gone, it was in a rock band, and she'd gone to LA earlier, and I was about to go to New York. I was about to be like, I'm done, I'm out of here. And she called me one day and was like, hey, I know you're going to New York, but I have no friends and it's very hard to make them here. How about living on my couch for free for a month and you can act here? And the dream was Broadway. It was never film because I was like, oh, I'm not into that. That's not artistic enough for me. Obviously, I've evolved, but so I wasn't in it. But then I kind of have such an adventurous spirit sometimes that I'll be like, yes, I'm going right. I'm going right. I'm going right. At the last minute, I'll be like, okay, let's just go left. Like, what the hell? Like, let's try this other door. And so at the last moment, I decided to come to LA and try it out. And I was like, I can always go back to New York. And I got here and then I stayed and started doing commercials. And I was like, okay, I'll try this out. Plus, I like warm weather. I'm not really for like dirty city weather. Sorry, New York. But I like the weather in California. So I was like, I'll
Yeah.
give this.
Do you have any regret?
Well, I don't have regret because I'm not dead. So I still have an opportunity to, do theater. Theater has more longevity, I feel like.
I do
So
too.
so I think like that opportunity is not gone. I met a lot of playwrights, as LA is not very much a playwright town. However, the ones that I met, and I did as many shows as I could there, even though it doesn't really have the same resonance there. However, those writers are now in New York, so it's still a possibility. But I don't know. I try not to regret my choices. I just try to like take the best from them, and then if I have to make another one, I make another one. I'm not afraid to make a change.
Right. I mean, I was always surprised in LA. This is actually how many like theaters and live shows. I mean, like like stage shows, and theaters there are. I just really never thought of LA as a theater town per se, other than the massive ones. But I mean, it's always fun to hear that, and there's a lot of small little theaters all over LA. So I mean, if that's your cup of tea, you could work. I mean, you can go down there, audition, and do different plays. I mean, I never knew how many there were.
I
Um,
do. I actually did for a couple of years. I did tons of plays, and I did a lot of sketch comedy. I write sketch comedy, so I did actually do that circuit for a while. But it's for being in LA. I'm not against it, and I actually might put up a one woman show in the future. However, if you're really gonna do theater, the East Coast, I think, is where that's at. That live performance energy is here. Unless you're gonna do comedy, who knows what I'm gonna do next? And be a comedian, then LA would be a great place for it. But as theater, I don't think I would pursue it so much here. I would just come back east because the opportunity is bigger. But I did do a fair amount of theater. I think I did like 15 shows in LA.
wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. Um, what do you prefer? Would you prefer doing original play? I mean, if a play, original playwright, a playwright comes up to you and says, "I want you to do my original work," or someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, we're doing a revival of Cats." Which one are you going to take, and why?
I would rather do the original, and I would rather. There are a lot of shows that I like out there, but I find the original playwrights that I don't know, I don't know how to say this, like I've attracted into my life, but I really like their work. A lot of times I like what they're saying, and doing a revival of another show, unless I was absolutely in love with it, but nothing ever comes to my head that I absolutely feel like I need to do. Um, if I could think of a show that I really wanted to do, then yes, I'd like to do that. But most of the times, I really like the originals. I've been blessed to meet a lot of really amazing playwrights. So their work is just inspiring to me. So I would rather bring that to life with no preconceived notions and just give it a try.
I'm just saying hi to more people are coming in, so I'm just saying hello to everybody. I want to acknowledge Fluff is in the house. Thank you, Fluff and stuff. Brene, thank you, Brene. Keith, I see you up there. Let me ask a question that Timothy asked. Let me scroll up here and grab it. He did ask a question, so I want to ask that. He asked the audition question. Says, did you audition for all types of different projects, or was there a certain role that you only wanted to do? I think that's probably in relation to when you're in Virginia. Um, did you audition for all sorts of roles, or did you just? I mean, if you want to act in an adult role, would they give you an honest chance to read for that, or did you just, you know, did you just stick for the child roles?
Um, I feel like I did play a fair amount of adult roles. But obviously, when I was a child, I had to do child roles, and then but as I grew into like a teenager and stuff, I could play. Like I played. I remember I was so offended. I got casted as Hermia in Midsummer's Night's Dream, and I wanted to be Puck.
Oh,
And yeah, so I did get a couple. Yeah, I have auditioned for most of the time when I'm called in for auditions, I will get the antagonist, or I do go in for a lot of love interests. But if I get to choose, I like the edgier role because it's fun. But yeah, I've done tons of auditions. But if I'm being called in, 9 times out of 10, I'm the antagonist, or I'm like the troubled lover, or
the the bad girl from the bad side or from the wrong side of the tracks
yeah, with a good heart.
with heart of gold.
Yeah.
Um, Uh, what do you like playing better? Do you like playing that type of role? The bad girl, looking for redemption, or you like playing the romantic role, or you like playing the heroine?
I actually I like them all, believe it or not. I guess I guess the bad girl from the bad side of the track is fun. It's freeing for me. But to sink my teeth in as an artist, I do more so the heroine, something more deep and dramatic and intense and like layered. I do like that. That's my favorite thing to do because that's actually like the craft and the work. But I do have fun playing the bad girl because it's I get to say some things people don't. Or I've played multiple mentally unstable individuals, and that's always fun.
Is that hard to play that kind of role? I mean, without going, I mean, how do you play a role that calls for you to play something like that, to be, unstable or crazy or whatnot? But how do you rein that in to not go over the top?
Um, I don't. I think that's just rehearsal and study, and like actually creating the role and not trying to BS it. Because I think that some people, when they do parts like that, they're like just throwing it against the wall. Where I think there's a lot of prep. One of my favorite theater roles, I did a schizophrenic girl that had like a very uh, tumultuous upbringing, and that hence she had a lot of problems. And it took me a minute to develop that role. It was a harder role to develop, but yeah, I think you just really have to do the work for that type of role. Like you can't. That's not like a 3 lines in a commercial or walk across a horror set and stab somebody and scream sort of situation. Like it's really putting in the time and really getting into that backstory of the role, and that's where I think you find your boundaries of being too much.
Um, Renee's mentioning here those psychotic, insane type characters blow your mind. I agree. Um, the reason I ask that is because it's a divisive role in a movie, and I think it's one of those things where the artist, for the performer, the actor, I think they sort of overwhelmed the director because it was the director's first film per se.
Mhm.
I'm talking about like Toni Collette in Hereditary. I don't know if you've seen the movie or not,
I
but
think she was amazing. I love her. I think she's a phenomenal actress.
But do you think she was phenomenal in that movie? Because I really thought she wasn't very well directed. I thought she was
I
way over the top.
I have two schools of thoughts on it. Like I loved Hereditary because it reminded me of like horror films that are older, like from the 70s and kind of that weird dated sense. Um, I think that her scenes were underdeveloped. So I don't know if that's direction or writing because I've seen her in other work and she's like next level. She's one of my favorite character
Sure.
actresses. But in Heredity, I think some things were too overly subtle and was resting on the talent of the actors rather than being created by the other elements of the scenes. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Uh, it does. I've seen her too. She's one of my favorites as well, which is why I was just so disappointed with
She
her
was good
character.
for a minute, but I don't know that that's her fault as an actor if you're only
Okay,
given these parameters.
that's what I'm
And I
saying.
always said, yeah,
Do you
because
think?
I've seen so much work from her.
Do you
That's
think
amazing.
that she was a? I mean, do you think? Have you seen that? Have you seen that yourself? Have you seen where actors have come onto a set and they're just have intimidated the director, or the director has been so laid back they just said, yeah, do what you want. Just we'll shoot it and then we'll make our choices afterwards. I mean, are you more of a? Do you want a director to trust you and let you go by yourself, or is it okay for a director to come up to you and say, listen, Tasha, I was wondering if we could do it this way. I mean, you know, uh, how do you? I mean, what do you like better as a
Um,
actor?
well, of course, this all these scenarios happen because I work in indie horror, so all of this has happened, and I work with a director that really lets me do what I want to do all the time, and I do actually for his projects, I love it because his scripts are designed so well that I have a lot of really fun parameters that I can play with. But then there are other directors that I may not know their work so well, or the scene isn't supported in the writing. And I feel awkward if I'm not given. And I've seen like the outcome of it. And as an actor, you're in there trying to do your job. And especially if you're an indie horror, you don't get a lot of opportunity to do your job. You get like a couple takes. And if you didn't do it, then you got to live with it for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
Or until people stop watching it, which
Yeah.
it always seems like the worst ones, they never stop watching. But so that's when for me, I would rather that someone be more hands on. And I will like, if I'm in that situation, I'm literally like, just tell me. Like, I don't need to have the guesswork in this because the scene doesn't support that. But then again, like I said, I'll work with other directors who the writing of the scene is so strong that I feel free because I already know we've already had the conversations and I know what I'm working with. So it really depends on who I'm working with and what the material is.
Uh, have you had to work with I mean, what's it like working with an inexperienced director? I mean, how does an artist? How do you cope with somebody like that? Like this their first movie, or you know, yeah, it's their first movie, or or their first feature. I mean, how does that?
It's
How's the best way to cope with it? Because they want to make the first impression as well, and I think some of them are probably they probably overreact to just about everything. Um, how do you handle that and make it easier for the director if you can?
it's I kind of I think I have run into that a fair amount of times, and it's a bit of an uphill battle because yes, they're the director coming in and they've got their vision, but if they're newer and even when I'm working with teams of actors, we've done a ton of films, we can kind of see how the scenes are going or how things should be done. But if we're working with a director who really doesn't have that full vision developed and doesn't have his style developed, then it's stressful. And for me too, because I put together so many projects and I write and everything, like I can see so many different directions something can go in to work. But if I'm not consistent with this director who hasn't developed their vision, doesn't have a full set style, then we might be in conflict and it's not communicated. And so at the end of the day, what really happens is that piece or that scene, it suffers for it. And for me as an actor, it's disappointing because now I have work that's going to go out and be seen that may not be in the best light. And the director may be very disappointed and not know who to blame. And they're coming at the actor where the actor is like, I'm just doing what you translated to me. That was the best I could
Right.
do. I was trying. So
Right.
it's kind of, it's frustrating and it's hard to deal with sometimes. And sometimes you choose your projects in a different manner and you try not to be stuck in that position. But it's the industry, everything's happening in real time. We just sometimes you get lucky. And a lot of times I think it's why we will work with the same directors a lot, especially in indie, because in other projects you have more leeway, you have more takes, and you have more time. But if you're shooting 20 pages a day, you need to be able to trust to a level those you're working with and trust in your director. And then even then, things will never be perfect, but at least you know you're putting your best effort out there.
Um, so when you were in LA and you started off, like we talked about briefly about was that your first role in LA when you did the Magnificent Seven?
Um,
The Magnificent Seven.
I think so. I think it was. I think I'd only done plays and maybe a commercial. And I don't even like that job was actually really I didn't expect to get that job, which was it was very funny to me that I got it. I was like I didn't even know what I was going to, and I didn't know I was talking to the executive producer when I walked in for the audition.
Mm.
Because I came in and I was full of all the energy you see here. And I was just talking to him. I was like, I don't know where to go. And he was like, I remember your picture. And I'm like, oh, awesome, great. Do you know what I should do? And he was like, we were just talking for a second. He's like, okay, cool, you can go. And I was like, oh, but I have an audition. He was like, I'm the producer. You got the job. And I
Oh
was
wow.
yeah, and it
Okay.
was like it was, and it wasn't the biggest role in the world. It really wasn't, but it was awesome because, especially if you like this type of TV, I had so many classical costumes that were really classical costumes. We were really in, you know, buggies and carriages. We were working on the Disney Western set, which is so cool. I mean, again, I come from theater. So anything that's like a big set or a studio that's already there and I can play make believe in my head, I'm like, I, I am so glad I'm a part of this right now. So it was a really cool project to work with. It was freezing, and I literally like there's a couple scenes if you've seen it. Like I play like a saloon girl, so I was totally high class. But I'm running through one of the fields in like saloon gear or like night outfits and I'm freezing to death and the sun's coming up. It's so beautiful. And I was literally like, I'm fabulous. I'm fabulous. I'm fabulous. Just do this. You're going to be okay. And then we shot half of it in the rain. So it was a wild
Yeah.
project, but it was amazing that all the sets and the wardrobe and the makeup and the hair and
Now,
my friends.
did you share a scene with any of the show's stars?
I'm in my scenes was Michael Bean. I was in a scene with Michael Bean and I was in a scene with Ron Perlman. Was he in that?
Well, yeah, Rob Perlman. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
was, and I remember running into him for the first time in the makeup trailer, and I came in to like get something because I had hats and hair and whatever going on, and then like bustles and all this, and so I needed to get something fixed, and he was in there, and I was like, "Hey, can you?" And then I stopped because I knew he was really famous. I didn't know who it was. And I was and he's like, "Hi," and I was like, "Hi."
Yeah, yeah. That's what I was getting to. What was it like? The first time you actually talked to him. Was it like holy cow, or was it a holy cow moment? Like I can't believe I'm meeting these people, or was it more like like I'm what I belong here.
It was well. I think I was the youngest person on set, so I was like a kid. I was still kind of a little bit a kid, and I was like, But it was cool though, because then I had to remember, like, oh yeah, because I kind of forgot I was like in it, and I was in full costume and like full hair, and I forgot like for a second because I was just staring at him, and so I was like, oh my gosh, and I forgot like, oh yeah, you're in this too. So it was just, I definitely knew he was way cooler than me. But then I was like, oh yeah, he's in the scene. Like, and he's like, did you need something? I was like, oh, something fixed. He was like, oh yeah, get it fixed.
By all means, come on in. Yeah, makeup. Uh, so that was a great baptism of fire. I when I saw that on there, I'm like, how cool was that? I mean, your very first job, you walked in there and you get to star on a cool show like that. I mean, not too many actors get to do that, you know.
it was,
But your
yeah,
whole body of work is like that. You worked in some really fun projects. I can't get over. I mean, most of the time I look over somebody's you look over somebody's resume and you see like maybe they have like 5 or 6 that are just actually stand out, right? But
yeah.
I'm looking at yours, and I just can't believe how much fun you've done. And I mean, I'm curious on the direction though, because it's like, did you want to do comedy? Did you want to do horror when you got to LA, or is that just how the dice were rolled?
I mean, I wanted to be fabulous. Yeah, actually, when I was first here, I had the most success in commercials. Like I did theater, but that's not a moneymaker in this town. So professionally, I had the most success in commercials and commercial print. And I did a lot of that. And I was trying to audition for TV shows and I would get pretty far. But back then, the diverse breakdown was different. So it was a little bit more of an uphill battle, but I was in there and I was working on it. And I wanted to get um, scenes for reels because all I had was commercials, really. I didn't really have anything to show people. So I was like, well, how does everybody else do it? Yeah. Getting my business on. And I was like, okay, everybody does independent films. I loved independent films because I saw a few when I was younger and I love them because I love horror, number one. But I really have a love of watching people just going for it. And so I would watch tons of independent films because I, I don't know, I have an attraction to that. So I was like, that's how people get real out here. If you're nobody and, commercials, you can't put on a reel. So I was like, okay, I'll audition for independent films and see what I got. And it led me down like this crazy world. And I guess that's how I ended up on it. Because the first independent film I auditioned for, I actually didn't book it. Um, and I was mad too. I was like, I'm going to book this. I'm going to book this. I'm fabulous. I didn't. But that director passed my tape to another director who called me about a month later and was like, hey, my lead actress just dropped out. Do you want to come audition for me? And I was like, yes, I do. And from there, that was the first independent film I ever booked. And I just started
That was out
booking them.
cold, right?
Oh, no, that wasn't Out Cold. I think was Out Cold before. No, wait. Hold on. I can't believe that you actually have my chronological ready. Okay, Out Cold was from a casting director. Ah, that's how much I don't remember that movie that much. It was a casting director that I had met randomly, and she had me come in audition randomly because I was not the prototype to audition for this film, but I came in, and the producers liked me. So yes, I did Out Cold, and then I don't
Yeah,
think.
again, that was a fun movie.
And I'm so thankful you like it. Like I did not know what I was doing. I was so nervous, and the actor I was supposed to work with, which was I believe Kevin Plummer, dropped out at the last minute, and I was just nervous. And this is the first time I'd been on an independent set, and like I did kids TV shows, but I'd never done an independent. Is fast and it's quick, and something goes wrong, you just keep on going. Like it's so luckily I'd done theater. I was somewhat prepared, but I was nervous to do that movie. And then, if I'm correct, I did Rat Scratch Fever. That was the next independent. that I did, and that's what I was referring to that I went and auditioned for. Because
Yeah,
is there?
Rat Fever. That's let's see. It was Out Cold, and then 10 Friends to Midnight. That was your first short film, right? 10 minutes.
That was the first short film, and I shot it actually at the same time, but I was actually shooting Rat Scratch Fever. I just at first, but I actually, while I was shooting Rat Scratch Fever, I booked the short film.
How did you like doing short films? I mean, especially since you're working at the side by side. So that's something I haven't seen before. What was the preparation like? I mean, were you like shooting at
Um,
night and shooting during the day? I mean, what was your preparation for the roles like?
it was on the same day actually, because then 10 Seconds to Midnight, since it was a short, there's less actual shooting time for that, so they were shot on the same 2 days. So I randomly booked that movie, and you do what you have to do. I went from one set to another. I got the set for the script for that movie, and I just learned it. And I got it. I was supposed to be in the Valley shooting for Jeff, and I told him, I was like, "Look, when are you going to start? I hate to do this, but I would like
Did you
again.
tell, did
I
you tell
needed
him
real, huh?
did you tell either director about the other project?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Because they're both
oh,
independents. I mean, I was being paid, but I was also like, hey, if I can do them both, I'm going to do them both. And I didn't have as big of a role in 10 Seconds to Midnight that I did. I had a cool role, and I liked the footage from it, so I'm glad I did that film. But I didn't have as I was the lead of the other one, so I just asked him. I was like, you can't hurt. You've got to go with like what you love. So if I love it, I can't be afraid to ask. And then all he can say is, no, you can't do it. And then they'll replace me, because I would have stayed with his film because I was the lead and we had been shooting for 2 weeks. So, but yeah, it worked out because my other lead actor had come in earlier to shoot scenes. So I shot that scene. I went in. I was in hair and makeup for like an hour. Then I shot for like 3.5 hours. And then I headed out to the Valley and shot for another 8 hours. And then I repeated that. And
wow.
that's what you have to do. And it's the roles are distinctly different. Like one was like an astronaut in this horror film world that is, giving birth to rats, because, that's who I was. And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other one was like a Zen. I was a hologram of somebody's like answering machine. And I was kind of giving advice and being a little condescending. So, I mean, if you could believe it.
No,
So
I
yeah,
can't. That's a stretch for me.
so it was distinctly different roles. So that was kind of interesting to balance those and go one from one. But yeah, I would just shoot one and then go to the next set, shoot the other
Wow, that's a. How far apart were they? I mean, was it like 30, 40 miles, or was it pretty close?
one. One was downtown and one was the Valley. So I would say that however far that is, 15 miles, 20, it's a distinct amount of time in LA driving. Like, so maybe in real life driving, not that bad, but when you're driving in LA, so I'd say it's like 35, 40 minutes in between them.
Okay, okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. Uh, so you did the short film, and you did Rat Scratch Fever. Now, was Rat Scratch Fever your first horror role? Uh,
Yes. 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 It was my first, and it was my first indie cult horror film. And I like, and working with the director that I work with, I don't know if people are familiar with it, but he's like the king of practical effects and like forced perspective. So it was
Jeff
a big
Leroy.
learning experience.
Jeff Leroy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
He
guy's a
did some
legend.
stuff. Huh?
That
What'd you
guy's a
say?
legend. He's a legend.
Yeah, and it's like I actually loved working with him once I realized what he was doing. But literally at first I thought he was going to kill me out in the desert. I was like, today is the day I die. I'm like in a lake bed. There are a bunch of toys on the ground and a camera pointed at me, and I'm splattered in blood. I'm literally dying for real here. Like, this is it. I didn't know what to expect from what he was doing until my co-star luckily was there, and he took a picture because he knew I didn't know. He had done more independent and worked with Jeff. and he took a picture of me next to everything. And then I saw what was happening because all the toys behind me were huge and it looked like a spaceship and it actually looked amazingly cool. And then I was like, he's not crazy, he's amazing. Like, I'm about to do a very cool film. And I got to do a lot of really cool stuff with him because he is amazing with special effects and how he shoots. And it's a wild ride, don't get it wrong, but it's from somebody with my background and such like a theatrical background. I was like, this is so cool. If I'm gonna do an independent, I want to be on a set like this where it's artistic and edgy. And
How was I mean, again, how refreshing that is to hear, because most of the time you hear, someone who's classically trained, does Chekhov, does Shakespeare, it's summer stock, it's the upper crust, and then just to come in there and go like, oh yeah, you put more blood on me. I'm good with that. I mean, it's really refreshing to hear. Um,
well, and like honestly, everybody wants to be in a big budget movie. Don't think that's not a goal, but sometimes you just have to work with what you're working with. And if that's where I'm getting my work, then I need to see it for what it is. And it's almost more natural for my background because I am used to knowing set designers and knowing people who make this type of effect for theatrical events. So to me, it was like exciting to watch somebody work like that. And it wasn't just a regular, low budget movie, point and shoot and say your line and bad lighting and flat areas and weird. It was really an interesting experience to work with him.
I'm looking at this movie. I was taking a harder look at it. There's this guy who played Brian, Sean Kane.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So what was he like to work with?
I never worked with Sean Kane. I know Sean Kane. I've met Sean Kane, and we're kind of all in the extended group of people who know each other. And I know Sean's wife, and yeah, I've met them through events and festivals and stuff like that. But I've never actually worked with him we didn't work together in scenes.
You have to fix that. I have to
I
tell
know.
him.
Well, it's on purpose. It's like I went to his screening of LA. He did an LA something movie where LA was imploding. So
Oh
I've been
yeah,
to his
yeah. He works in L.A.
Erupt. Yes, I went. I had a lot of friends in that, so I went to Erupt in LA, and then yeah, we've known each other through the years. I just never have one-on-one done a scene, and we've been in films together, but I just haven't one-on-one done a scene with him.
Sean's actually a very good friend.
Yeah, he just does a
He's a
lot of films, a lot of
yeah.
great work.
Yeah, he's a very good friend. I just saw his name there as an actor and going, oh, I have to talk to him about this one. Yeah, Sean and Liz are awesome people. And
Oh,
Ronan,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and Ronan's getting so big. Uh, uh, that's awesome. I have to tell him that. I have to tell him that he's got to cast you in something though. I'm always
I
like,
know.
what's up with
Yeah,
that? Now that I
I
know
know.
this, now that I know this, now that I know the secret, now I have to come up there and say, how come how come we haven't casted Tasha yet? What's up?
I
He's
know.
got a great eye for talent though.
Yep.
Uh, 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 so I like the idea of how you just came out there and just owned this, you owned the fact that, you're in horror and you like it and, you're doing it. Now, as at the same time as you're doing this, as these movies, you're doing more and more movies. Are you still doing stage? Are you still acting in theater?
I haven't had the opportunity clearly as of late. However, before the pandemic hit, I was going to do one woman show. So I was going to go back and actually do a show that I wrote. Clearly, the pandemic hit, so that didn't happen. But I'm not going to say it's not going to be a part of my future because I think I will actually do a show.
And that tells me that you write too. So, what do you are you going to be? Do you want to become a screenwriter? Are you going to try to do a screenplay, or are you just going to just be a playwright and do not just a playwright? Because I don't know why I think playwrights are they're gifted. But are you going to try to do a screenplay after maybe something you can do after the one woman show? And will you premiere in LA or Virginia?
I've actually written multiple projects, and both for film and television, and also for theater. So I do have a project that I'm writing for film now that it incorporates horror in the world that I've worked in. So that is in the works now. That I'm writing that, and then I would be doing, and that would be more horror and cult and edgy and whatever. And then the show that I wanted to put up is comedy, and it's based on a project, a book that I'd written years ago. That so I would like to put that up in theater, but they're distinctly at two different ends of the world. One is like gruesome and blood and guts, and one is funny and mouthy and silly, and yeah. So I
Right.
actually
Uh, you do a lot of horror comedy too. Like we are just talking about. We're talking about the Amityville Shark House, which by all means, give me that. You also are doing American. You're also doing what's this one here? American Bigfoot.
Oh my gosh, Lance Poland's movie. Do you know him?
No, don't know Lance, but I see American Bigfoot, and that's just calling my name.
Oh yeah, if you like silly, actually, when I spoke to Lance, I actually shot that over the pandemic, and Lance called me up one day. One of the producers, a friend of mine, and they needed someone to come, and he was like, "Do you want to come up to Big Bear and shoot this film?" I was like, "I haven't left my house in a year." 100%, I do. Um, so I went up there, and he goes, "Look, Tasha," because I told him what I had worked on. He's like, "So maybe you get it." He's like, "I like to write raunchy, silly comedies." And I was like, let's do it. So yeah, it was like this silly, ridiculous movie. I play a really ridiculous character, one that I normally don't get a chance to play. So it was the most fun. Going up there and just shooting for a couple of days on location and just being this outrageous C-list, coked out wannabe reality superstar. Like,
That's like that's a lot of people are gonna be sitting there watching you and going like, "Why is she playing me? Why is she playing me?"
it was such a fun role to do. I almost wished one of my friends named Hans was on this movie with me, and I almost wish we could do our own spinoff because he played kind of a ridiculous producer, and my character was just too much drama all the time, and drugs, 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 drugs. And I don't always actually I've never been cast in a role like that, so it was hilariously fun. And Lance is ridiculous with what he puts in the films, but it's really funny and it's really funny to shoot. So it was a fun shoot to be on. And I'm interested to see how that movie turns out. But I know it will be totally ridiculous, but I think it will also be really fun to watch. Definitely.
Do you like watching yourself on stage on screen?
Not always. I'm I'm hypercritical. So not always. Some films I like, or some films like with Rat Scratch Fever, because I didn't know what to expect and I didn't know the genre. And that's one thing I actually had to learn. Like I started enjoying watching myself more often on camera when I understood the genre and what was expected of it and what was entertaining. But when I went to the premiere of Rat Scratch Fever, I didn't invite anybody. I just put it on Facebook. I was like, nobody's going to come to this. I'm going to go home and just drink vodka and cry into my pillow afterwards. And it was at Cine Family. And one of my friends who runs a geeky podcast, I had told him, and he actually went with people and bought tickets. And he called me and he goes, "Where are you? Your premiere's tonight." And I was like, "Oh, I'm driving over there. Nobody's coming. I'm just going to sit in the back with my director and hang out and have fun." He was like, "There's a line around the corner for this film." And so when I went into the movie to watch it, the bloggers all ran up to me and were like, oh my God, you're Sonia. This movie's amazing. We love it." And I was like, "Have you seen it?" Because I'd seen cuts of it and I was so critical of everything. I was like, "Have you seen it?" And they were like, "We love it, blah, 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 blah." And I'm so glad that I watched that with a full house and that viewing experience with an audience that really loves this genre. And it made me calm down a little bit and be a little bit less critical. And it was like all in my head a little bit. And also like seeing how much joy that everybody had and enjoying just what it was, and it was silly and it was funny and bloody and ridiculous, and then I I'm still critical, but I'm a little less critical. I'm like, oh, let me find the good points, let me find the entertainment in this.
So you understand what I told you earlier about when I looked at your body of work and I said these are all movies that we need to have on our shelves. You can see that I wasn't just saying that. I meant that. You
No,
know,
I
and
appreciate that you do, because I wouldn't have known that there was such a fan base for it and people who really enjoyed it. And once I started to see it from that viewpoint, I really started to enjoy them.
excuse the Cheetah. That's my director, and he always likes to come in and steal scenes from me.
Oh, that's fine. My bunny rabbit keeps running in and out, so he may make an appearance.
Okay. All right. Are you gonna what? That's that it? Uh, you know how you work. You have to work with divas. You know what?
Yeah.
Generally makes 4 passes, then he'll jump off. So hopefully that'll be the case. Come on, silly. Sorry. Come on, Cheetah. Uh, see. Okay. So I mean, the first time you saw yourself in camera for a whole audience, and you're totally like you're re-energized, you're focused. Have you ever had a lull where you just lost self-confidence? And if so, how did you handle it?
I think that's a consistent for most actors and artists. Um, yeah, of course I have. I've because one project you love and one project you're like, oh no. And then, you're like, my life is over and blah blah. Like all the stages of being a crazy artist. Yeah. So of course I have. I just try harder, I think, and I try again. And then if I get another opportunity, and also I appreciate, I do have moments, I think, that the films that I maybe don't love randomly, I don't know if it's a universe thing, but I will have somebody randomly come up to me and be like, oh my God, I saw this film. I loved it. And I'm like, you did? Excellent. So it helps, and I appreciate when people say they enjoy stuff. And then I just keep trying and I do another project. And if I didn't like something, then I write a project or I go out and I try to collaborate with friends. I just keep trying because I don't really see myself becoming an accountant anytime soon. So this is
But all those business courses you took.
yeah, I know, right? Exactly. I mean, but no, I just kind of keep trying. You just have to, and you have to, like, if you make a decision to be an artist, then the art is the work, and it maybe I'm not the only crazy one that, may not like something. I think we all go through that, but I just have to keep trying because that's all you really can do. And it gets better.
Now I've noticed that you were working on we were talking about this real quickly. We're talking about Amber Road. That's the latest movie you wrapped up on. That one looks more. I don't know, maybe just the title of the name or whatnot. But that one seems a little bit more heavier than what you're used to. Is that a little bit more of a drama?
Amber Road, and I'm about to put a story out on that. Amber Road is the most gruesome script I've ever read that I've been offered a role in. And I was reading it on a plane flying back to LA and I was cringing. It is so, and it's definitely horror. And it's definitely, if everybody out there is a horror fan, like some blood, you might like this movie. Yeah, it's very gruesome. It does have a very deep undertone that's important that I think is good, but it's definitely encased in a bloody, gory, uncomfortable storyline. But in that sense, I can't wait to see it. I'm interested in seeing it because the script in it definitely, when I put it down, I was like, I need to sit in a corner for a minute. I need to gather my zen. Yeah, it's horror with definitely an aggressive tone and message to it.
Yeah, I just got that sense that when I saw that, I'm like, that's why I even put it in. I put it in. I announced you on my show. I put that movie down as one of the movies you're starring in. I just got the sense that movie seems going to be a little bit more than what we've been used to seeing.
Yeah, Yeah, it's definitely, yeah. And I play a very interesting character, but she's really fun. But it's um yeah, it's definitely like the story itself is very grotesque, but should be great to watch for sure.
who's been your favorite director to work with?
Oh,
If you don't want to name one, you can name three.
I don't.
You're safe.
I I'm like they're all watching it right now. Like, what is she going to
Yeah,
say?
okay, how about this? Three plus Sean Kane. There,
I never worked with Sean. Oh, okay.
I know, but we're just putting that in there because that will give him more umph to do so.
um, I loved. I'm trying to think of all the films. I've worked with Jeff Lear multiple times. I love working with him. He is crazy and amazing, and he does really cool stuff. So he's one of those. Even if I don't get his full vision, when I see what he makes, I'm like, wow, you made that off of $3. That's amazing. So for his artistry and his scientific like creativeness, I love working with Jeff. Amber Road's written by Brian Busargila, and I really like his writing a lot. So I love to work with him and his writing, and always really interesting stories. Always has cool locations. One of the movies that I did impact event with him, we went on location to a haunted house theme park sort of thing and shot the whole thing there. It was the most fun. Sorry, my bunny might want to come join this conversation. Oh, he
Oh,
took off.
all right.
He was about to jump up, but
Okay.
not anymore. He's done.
Oh, okay.
So for that, I really, really love working with him. And then now you're gonna get me in trouble because all these directors would be like, "What about me?" I've
Don't
worked.
get her in trouble. If she's not in trouble, I asked the question.
I mean, yeah, I really like. In the past year, I worked with a couple of directors I really enjoyed. I just worked with Grindhouse Studios, and that was really fun. With Eric Mathis, and we just did a kind of like a an anthology throwback 80s film with a bunch of different stories in it. And that was really fun. It was written by Ralph Kanaski, and that was a very cool project to work on. I liked his vision for it. And we were out in the middle of nowhere and some really haunted places, which is awesome. I have some ghost footage and everything legit.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you believe in the paranormal then?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe in it all. Like, yeah, I'm 100% in that. I believe in the paranormal. I believe in aliens. I know whatever, but I do.
Yeah,
Um,
it's got to be more than just us.
yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for knowing. I totally agree. Yeah, so in the past year I worked with him and I liked his work. I'm excited to see how that movie turns out. And I'm a bad girl in that.
Oh, now are there any roles that you won't do? Is there any conditions that you would, we want you to do this, we want you to do that, we want you to curse, like say, here, every other word's a curse word, or we want you to go up there and slap a kid in the mug, or is there any role that you would be hesitant of doing or
Yeah,
not doing?
anything that is aggressive towards children in any way I wouldn't do. I'm very I'm not against people doing those roles. It's just not one I'm comfortable with doing. So anything that would, and I've had to turn roles down like that in the past, and good ones, like good acting wise roles. I'd be like, this is amazing acting to do this role, but I just didn't. It put a very dark feeling to me, and I'm like, this is not for me. So anything that's aggressive or anyhow violent to a child, no, absolutely, I won't do. As far as cursing, no, I don't have a problem with that. I have no problem with that. I I don't know. As far as roles, sassy, sexy roles, I don't have an issue with. It's kind of fun to me. It's silly. As far as maybe nudity for roles, I'm not against that. I just haven't found a script that I'm like, yeah, I'm into that because it's about like the full picture for me. Do I think this
Right.
is something cool that I don't mind putting out into the world? So that's where I'm
Yeah,
at.
I agree with that. I mean, if you're gonna, it's got to be a it's got to be a good story. It's got to be something impactful,
For
for
me, I want it to be, if I'm gonna do it, then I want it to be like, yeah, that scene was awesome. Not like, oh, I just saw her random nakedness. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I want it to really like be the best scene in the world. And if it's not gonna be, then maybe that's not my role. That's not my part.
Yeah, I agree with that. Where do you see your career in, let's say, 2 years from now? Where do you see yourself, Tasha?
Queen of the world. Ultimately, I mean, I'm a creative and I'm an artist, so I like to create entertainment. So ultimately, I'd like my career to be bigger and more fabulous. But I want to create more entertainment, and I'm creating more streaming entertainment right now. And I do want to write out project. I want to put out projects that I've written and I'm creating, and would be directing. So I want to do the full spectrum.
The ham's back. Sorry. I tell you, I keep saying this to everybody. This is like the last 3 weeks. This is new. He never even gave a he never cared. But the last 3 weeks or so, all of a sudden he hears me talking and he wants to get in on the action.
Yeah, he's like, I'm famous now. Forget you. Like,
Yeah, he's feeling seen. Uh, yeah, I can see that for you too. Streaming been your friend so far? I mean, has it helped you in terms of getting roles? I mean, you mentioned something early in the interview about diversity. Uh, has that started to work in your favor now? Are people not going to be? Are they not so narrow minded? Are they taking more chances with booking? You know, more diverse talent.
yeah, I mean, obviously, like in the nature of entertainment right now, thankfully it is more diverse. And yeah, for me, it does open up the path more. I mean, I was, at least for independence, it wasn't as strong. It's becoming more, but I, in a sense, didn't run into as much pushback. So I was thankful for that. And I don't have the same career as other scream queens or indie queens, but I've definitely done some really cool roles, and where it landed me, I did more sci-fi, which is really fun to me, and more special effects stuff. So that is good. As far as streaming, I like it. I like just like I like the freedom of independent films. I like the freedom of creating on streaming. And currently, when I create content, I'm doing a lot of streaming stuff just because you have a lot of freedom. And I'm such a storyteller that I like to like create videos and stories, and I don't know where it's going to go. So far, in me being proud of myself, it's successful. And I do have people who see my streaming work, and I have received work off of that. So I hope that that becomes more of a platform, because there's a lot of freedom to create on that and to really make something your own.
Uh, what do you think of the? I mean, how? I'm going to be asking you a question. Now that you've been there, been in Hollywood for a bit.
Okay.
Um, what would you tell somebody just starting out in their business today? Like today, they came up to you and said, "Tasha, I want to get into the business." What's different from getting into the business today than it was for you back in the when you started?
Um, I think that you have to have an independent mindset and brand. And saying that, just like when I came in the industry and nobody ever really wanted to see an actor be so independent and overly creating because they're doing too much. Now you have to do that. You have to put yourself out there, and you don't have to do anything, but I would advise, um, to put yourself out on these other platforms. Give people a chance to really see you the way you see yourself and the way you're most confident, and not leave up the categorization of who you are as an entertainer to somebody else. So it's really creating your identity and putting time into that. I think that's really important. And also, for actors just coming in, definitely study, but also not just study acting and performing, which you should do that. Definitely should take business classes, but of some sort, even if it's online. But study different types of projects, different types of film. There's a lot of different avenues. Like there's independent film, there's mainstream, there's commercial, there's all different opportunities. And knowing the difference can give you a lot of diversification and ability to work more and build your name more and give you more avenues for success. So that's what I'd say. Just give yourself more opportunity and not just think that your future is in one person's hands.
Uh, I'm gonna ask anybody in the chat if you have any questions for our guest Tasha. Go ahead and start dropping them in the chat. I have a couple more questions before we let you go. Speaking of horror, what were your 5 favorite horror films growing up or now? What are the five horror films that you recommend to everybody watch?
I always blank when people ask me this. Texas Chainsaw Massacre for sure. I'm a Lost Boys fan for sure.
Okay.
Hot Vampires. I'm also an Anne Rice fan, so I did like Interview with the Vampire. As far as more gruesome, The Exorcist. I still
Yeah,
get nightmares from
classic.
that. And
Classic.
I definitely all of like the Freddy Krueger. I've watched
So,
that inside and out. So
did you like the remake?
of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
I don't like any of the remakes there. I don't think that I've seen a decent remake for anything. I just watched the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre one that was on Netflix.
Yeah.
The film was tragic. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I heard that too. I heard it was really, really bad.
It was, yeah, I was, yeah. I mean, and granted,
I,
nice
th-
budget, nice
I
quality, but it was just a mess. It was not a horror film to me. There's so many more that I really like, and I always, you would think I would be like, hey, I know everyone right now, and I'm like, oh, horror film. It'll come to me while we're talking, I'm sure.
Sure, sure. What do you like to do on your day off when you're not acting or working on your career or how about this? What do you do when you're not acting as far as building your presence? I mean, I don't want to say your brand because that's such a cliche, but how are you building your presence in the public eye? I mean, like doing things like this.
I do. I have, I'm, as far as like building presence, I have Instagrams and I do I have a main Instagram. I have Cult Queen TV, which is like a horror Instagram that I shoot little horror stories on, and I put that up. And then I also have a new beauty blog. Yeah, I like to travel. I like to take adventures. I'm one of those people who I just like to try strange things. Also, I like aliens and stuff, so I go on a bunch of stuff like that. But yeah, I'm adventurous, so I'm kind of that type of person. Like in my days off, that if somebody's like, hey, I tried this new cool crazy thing, you want to try? And I'm 9 times out of 10, I'm like, yes, I do. I know that it makes no sense. Let's do it. So I'm really open to that sort of thing. So I just kind of like the idea. I realized one day that I don't really have hobbies. I more so like to collect adventures. Like I like to do. And it could be from the most mundane, let's go eat at a hot dog stand in East LA that is supposed to have the best pickles, something weird like that, to like going to another country and like skydiving. Although I don't want to ever skydive. So parasailing, I never want to jump out.
I see people want to do skydiving. I'm just like, I'm good. I'm good with watching you.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't ever have to do it, but I do like to parasail. But as far as like jumping to the earth where I could literally die, I'm cool. Like I'm good.
Yeah, I'm too fat to jump out of a plane.
Yeah.
There's not a parachute big enough. So, yeah. And I was going to ask you yesterday the other thing too. What are some of the cool things in your town that you like? That'll be all. Yeah. Our last question is: name 5 places that are really cool about your town, or your 5 places to hang out at.
I like Marina Del Rey and Venice Beach. I like that whole area to go out, walk around, the whole vibe of that. That's always really fun. I like Griffith Park. It's always fun. I
Yeah.
like to go to live music. It's not so much happening that much, but when there's live music, I'm pretty much in to go to that at bars and restaurants and seeing. I like that in LA, so that's where that's happening now because there's no place. I used to go to the Kibitz Room and watch like I do like. Oh, you know what I like to do, which is so random and people think this is funny, but I don't know why I like to do it. I like to, how comedians they have like, they perform, they do whatever. I like to go to the nights where they're like working out material.
All right. Open mics.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, I love going to that because I just like the process of watching them work and like watching them come up with things on the spot. And they're not always good, real talk. They're not always good, but that's not the point. I'm not going there to judge them. I'm just kind of watching. To me, the show is just seeing this comedian try to do these jokes and stuff. So I enjoy doing that. And that since I was living on the West Side, then I would go to the West Side Comedy Club. I would go there, and it would be very funny because it was mostly all comedians that would come that night, and they're like, "Are you going up on stage?" I'm like, "Come on here for the show."
Oh no! I find, you know what? I got 4 minutes. I'm giving it to you. Now you can get up there and get it for 8.
Yeah, I've got a glass of wine. Rock it out. I will
Yeah.
laugh, even if you're not funny. I'm there for you. So I like to. That is one of the things I really like to do. And what else do I like to go to? We haven't gone anywhere in so many years. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Outdoors? Like,
Yeah, I
um,
was gonna say the pandemic. I mean, you guys are opening up though, so I mean, pretty soon you'll be able to do and go anywhere you want.
yeah, that's true. I like to go. I like Palm Springs. Does that count?
Oh yeah, Palm Springs is nice.
I like that. That culture. What is that culture there? Laying by the pool and having a cocktail. But it's.
Yeah,
But I
I have no idea what that feels like, but I mean, I get what I've been there before. I've seen it, so it's like, what's it, lifestyles of the rich and famous or stuff like that. They don't eat Cheerios in the morning. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's ridiculous ultimate California living, but it's fun. I'm a big people watcher. So basically any place that I'm telling you I like to go, clearly the comedy club, I love to watch people interact. So if there's a lot of people places, I like to sit and just watch them and just see what they're doing and not even in a rude way or judgmental way. I'm just kind of interested in what they're doing. So where there are a lot of people, I'm probably there. And it's usually in nature.
We got some comments here. Let's see. We got see, CV was born. CV with baseball was born in Los Angeles. He also wants to know: have you ever worked at the Pantages, Disney, Amundsen, or Mark Taper? I think those are all theaters. What's the biggest theater you worked in LA?
I haven't worked in big theaters in LA. I've
No.
only done experimental theater.
Okay. And Fairy Dust mentioned that she was born in Los Angeles, raised in East LA, but at 12 moved to San Gabriel Valley. Yeah, I'm actually originally from Southern California myself. I grew up there too. I went to San Gabriel, the Inland Empire. I've been on I've been to Big Bear plenty of times. My uncle Fred lived in Wrightwood, so many times. Listen,
Actually, oh, sorry.
no,
Theater
no, go
wise,
ahead.
I'm Second City. Like if he knows what Second City is, I was in Second City.
Sure. Yeah, we all know Second City. Okay. Well, that's fun. That's fun. I mean, now Hakibon has coming up with questions. Do you see yourself more as an improv actress or straight line actress, straight script actress?
I'm like everything. It
Yeah.
depends on the script. It depends on the script. I do like to improv, and I do work with directors who kind of they know my work, so they'll let me go for it. But again, it depends on the project. But I do, I write. So yeah, I want to say what I want to say, but I respect the writing of other writers too.
Right. Right.
So
Listen, I really, man, I'm grateful that you came on to the show, man. I'm totally tickled. I knew this was gonna be a lot of fun. I mean, there's so many. Like I said, I'm gonna start looking for some of these films like tonight because I definitely want to see some of these. Halloween, Pussy Trap, Kill Kill. Yeah, that's me and the cheetah all day long.
That's a fun film. Yeah, that's a fun film that we did.
That's a great title.
Yeah, yeah.
Listen, I want to thank you again for coming out and hanging out with us for tonight. I appreciate it so much. It's always nice to meet a friend of Sean's. I'll be giving him a hard time about it, and tell him, how come you haven't casted her in one of your movies yet? What's up with that? So and then but yeah, how much fun is this? Thank you so much, Tasha. I really enjoyed it very much, and thank you for giving up your time for us. Everybody in my chat. Oh yes, I'll put all of Tasha's socials down in the description box after the show. I won't wait a day. I'll put them out tonight. So we got we got Instagram. What else you got? Do you have any other social platforms that you want to tell us about?
I'm developing another one called Cold Queen TV. So it's also on Instagram. So if you want to check that out, I do have videos that I shoot and create. I'm about to release a story. So.
Okay. Do you have like a YouTube channel as well?
I do. I don't have much on it, but I've been actually influenced to talk about the film that will never die, Predator World, that I did. So I was going to do.
Oh gosh, I didn't even bring up that. That's I think everybody here in the chat actually has a copy of that.
Are you serious?
I think I want to say I have a copy of that. It came out on Wild Eye. They renamed it.
Yes, they did. They renamed it twice. It went all around the world. It was the craziest shoot I've ever worked on in my life, and I cannot believe that everybody in the world has seen that movie, but they have.
Yeah, no, Wild Eye gets their stuff out there. Rob is very inventive, and if it's not out there in the physical, because physical media being hard to put out there now, it'll probably be on Tubi. So yeah, Predator World. And I'll get your YouTube channel from you too. I'll put that down below. People actually like to come out and look at it, and they'll probably want to sub to you and see what else you're working on. Of course, your database, I'll put that on there as well. Yeah, that's I think that's it. Tomorrow night, let me do this before we close the show. Tomorrow night, we end the week with filmmaker Franklin Correa. He will be here at 8:00, and hopefully some of you will come out and listen to Franklin. He's got quite a story. Really nice guy. He cheated death. He had a widowmaker, and he cheated death. And so we're talking to him about that, about his films. He is a micro-budget or no-budget filmmaker, and he'll be here to talk about how he creates magic out of nothing. Tasha, thank you so much for coming by, and we will see everybody tomorrow night at 8:00. Peace. Stay right where you're at.